Hello, my name is Mr. Polk and welcome to my kitchen. Today I'd like to share with you how to make blueberry muffins. And the real secret with blueberry muffins is to not overmix them. So we're going to use something called the muffin mixing method. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a larger bowl and we're going to start with 10 ounces of pastry flour. So we're going to put that in there. And if you don't have pastry flour and you want to use AP flour, that's fine. And then 7 ounces of sugar, okay, granulated sugar. And then for this one we're going to use baking powder, okay, so 4½ teaspoons of baking powder. And then you're also going to add a ½ teaspoon of salt. And here's where, as we talked about in class, it's extremely important. 4½ teaspoons is a lot of baking powder, so you don't want to switch it out with baking soda or your muffins will not have a really good taste to them. So with this method, this is similar to making pancakes and other things like that, other quick breads, okay? And we mix all the flour together with the leavening agent and everything, and we have what we call our dry, okay? We're going to set that off to the side. And now we're going to work on our wet ingredients, okay? And for our wet ingredients, we're going to start with 3 ounces of eggs, okay? Weigh those out. And then we're going to add 7 fluid ounces of milk. I prefer whole milk. We'll put that in there. Okay. And then what I like to do is whisk this together a little bit. Because what's going to happen is you can combine all the wet all at once. So we just give this a little whisk, make everything look nice. And then it's also going to get your vanilla. Okay. So we got our vanilla in here. And then you're also going to have butter. Now this is something people miss sometimes on the recipe. It's 4 ounces of unsalted melted butter. Every once in a while I come around in the kitchens and I see somebody just having the chunks of butter in here and trying to whisk it together. It's not going to work. Okay, you have to melt it. So this is all of our wet. Now that we have our wet, we're going to carefully incorporate it into our dry. So we're going to take our dry again. And for this, I'm just going to use a spatula. Sometimes the whisk is just going to get jumbled up in there and run the risk of overmixing. The whole idea is to not overmix. So I'm going to start with maybe 1/3 of my wet. And I'm just going to sort of incorporate it around in here. And once it's already incorporated, we'll go with 1/3 more. Okay, it's looking good there. And then once it starts to look like it's almost together, then I'm going to add the rest of the wet. Make sure I'm scraping my spatula, and then I want to run this. But I want to get all the goodies in there, all the wet ingredients, okay? Put that back here. Now, what you're going to do here is just start mixing this around just till it's combined and looks mixed. I do not want to overmix. Notice we're not using the KitchenAid mixer. Okay, this is pretty much ready to go. Once you've got most of the dry mixed in, you're ready to go for the next step. And the last step is to add your mix-ins. At this point, this muffin batter, it could get anything. Chocolate chips, craisins, whatever. We're going to go with the classic blueberries. And here's the thing. I prefer, we're making mini muffins, so I prefer to use the frozen blueberries. And the reason is you got to be real careful with these. These are the wild blueberries, and wild blueberries are very tiny, and I like those because I'm making tiny muffins. If I use big ones, they're going to go in and you're going to get like 2 blueberries to a muffin. Here you're going to get a lot. So you put them in, and one of the things you got to be careful of now is you got to mix these in, and because of them being frozen, it's probably going to turn your batter that blue color, so you have blue blueberry muffins, but it is what it is. Try to not, mix it too much. But you want to get everything mixed around, and then that's going to be your batter. The other thing is when you do use bake with frozen fruit, make sure that the fruit is still frozen. Okay? I just took those berries out of the freezer before I started. What happens is when they're frozen, IQF, individually quickly frozen, all the juices are inside. If you thaw them out on the counter, all the juices run out. Okay? When this muffin bakes and the blueberry thaws out, the juices go into the muffin and keep it nice and moist. Okay? So now let's take a look at how to scale these guys up. Okay, so let's take a look at how to scoop the muffins. You're going to want to use a muffin pan. In this case, I'm using a mini muffin, so I have a mini muffin pan, small liners. And I prefer to use a scoop. And like I said, because you use the frozen blueberries, you get that blue color. If you use fresh, you don't, but I use frozen because I really like the size. When you scoop, just do a nice level scoop there, and you want to put it right inside the middle of the liner. The rule of thumb with muffins is you want to fill them up pretty high. We always kind of say you fill them at least 2/3 of the way up, because these guys are going to go in a real hot oven. They're going to go in a 400-degree oven, and what's going to happen is at 400 degrees, the batter is going to start to rise up from the baking powder, and then the edges are going to start to set, all right, because they're going to start to get a little golden brown from the heat in the oven. And then while they set, that holds the shape of the muffin. And then what's going to happen is the middle of the muffin will start to rise up and give you that domed effect. So here you can see we kind of scooped and scaled all the muffins. And then the thing I like to do is use a little bit of sanding sugar, a large granular sugar, and just clear, just the white. I like to put the sanding sugar right on top, and then as it bakes, that's going to come out. So we get the sanding sugar on there. And then, like I said, we're going to put these guys in the oven, about a good 400-degree oven. And these are going to take maybe 10 to 12 minutes because they're small. If you're making bigger ones at home, they're going to take a little bit longer. So there we go. So let's get these guys in the oven. All right, let's take a real sneak peek of the muffins. I really don't want to disturb them, but we'll quickly open the door on the oven cam here, and you'll see that they're starting to do what muffins do. And I don't want to pull them out yet because they're kind of setting, and I'm going to close it up right away. But what you can see is that they're starting to set on the edges and starting to dome on the top. Okay, I'm going to close that up, and the muffins are going to continue to bake and dome up like that. If they don't set on the edges, that's when they spill over and make a big mess in your oven. And the trick really is, don't be afraid of the high temperature. I've got the oven at 400 degrees. Okay, let's take a final look at these guys. The age-old question is always, how do you know when they're done? So we're going to take them out, and I do two things. First of all, when they're done, I give them a slight tap. If they spring back, I know they're good. And then I still do the toothpick test. I go in, and I'm looking for it in the center to come out clear, which it does. So these guys are ready to come out of the oven. So we'll go ahead and take those out. Make sure you're careful like I'm doing here so I don't smash one of them. It's real easy to put your oven pad right in one of the muffins. So let's take these out and look at them. So now you can see we've taken our muffins out of the oven. We have them in the pan. As soon as they feel like they set up, you want to start to take them out of your pan, okay? Because you don't want them to keep cooking, but you can't take them out right away because they need a set. And here you can see that the muffin has the edge and it starts to puff up. Depending on how you fill them and the size of your papers, you can get different variations on how they puff up. But you definitely see that they're filling up and filling out and looking great. And then you can present them on a little plate or however you'd like to do that. Blueberry muffins are great. And like I said, you could sub out chocolate chips or craisins or anything like that. But the beauty of the blueberries, especially the frozen ones, is, and then again, you could have fresh ones and freeze them yourself. It's that juices is frozen in, and then as the muffin bakes and it heats up, that juice releases and just makes your muffin that much more softer and that much more delicious. So thank you for baking with me today, and I can't wait to bake with you real soon right here at Mr. Polk's Kitchen.